Good evening. Good evening. How are you this evening? What are you doing on this Tuesday evening other than watching me right now? I hope you are well. I hope you've had a good week. I am running a little bit late, a bit seat of the pants today. There is so much happening in my world with all the things that I am doing, some of which I can't even tell you about. So, yeah, it's sometimes I'm running from job to job and company to company and thing to thing, and that's okay. So sometimes I look a bit frazzled, and tonight is one of those nights. In fact, proof of how frazzled I am. My son bought me a Reese's chocolate bar, and I left it on my desk and didn't eat it. And now I'm doing a live and I can't eat it, and that's just absolutely terrible, isn't it? Anyhow, how are you this evening? I see some of you are dropping on now, so I'm going to get started. So because I broadcast this on all 5 platforms, for those of you that don't know me, I am Mandy Nicholson, and I am the Creative Genius Consultant. I'm an artist, I'm an author, I'm a creative retreat owner, and I live in Scotland, and I help creative women to launch, grow, and scale their businesses and make more money. And something came up last week that I thought it was worthy of bringing to this weekly live. It was actually through a one-to-one with a private client. And what came up was how difficult creatives find it to juggle all these massive creative ideas along with the thoughts of being in a job or work that feels like it's constraining you. What this client said to me was, I watched a parent work 9 till 5 for their entire life until they died. And that scares the living bejesus out of me. And I don't want to be trapped in that. So when I get a deadline or a job that I land, which I'm delighted about, and I think I've got work to do for a certain deadline, I fight it. There's huge resistance in me to actually going away and sitting down and doing the work that I know I've got to do. I would rather be doing something creative. It also came up in a discussion in my group this morning when I actually raised this as part of another live about goal setting, is that, we know we've got things that need doing in our business. Those are the things that are going to make us money because they are about business strategy, about marketing, all of those things that we need to do. Yet the tendency is for creatives to go and hide in the corner and paint, to avoid the deadlines, to avoid doing the jobs that need to be done, to avoid the 9 to 5, and all of those things that feel like you are being put in a box and that you feel like that and that you can't be the creative person that you are. So I wanted to bring it to this live tonight and just talk through why we feel like this as creatives. Now, don't get me wrong, I have very successful businesses and I've got lots of things that I do, but I still feel like this from time to time. And what this particular client had asked me was, how can I get to this deadline and do this work when I'm feeling this resistance? When I started to explore it with this client and ask questions, it turned out that the resistance wasn't actually to the work or to the deadline. It was about doing it in a way that this person thought it should be done because that's like how everybody else does it. Therefore, there are layers of expectations there so that you've got a job and you know what you've got to do and you've got a deadline for it. So therefore, you should have all your work done in advance, have it all neatly stacked, have your PowerPoint presentations there and your speeches ready or whatever it is you're doing. And it should all be done well in advance, completely professional, so that you can turn up on the first day and go, right, here we go. This is what I'm doing. Now, that's what linear people think like. We've got a job that's got to be done. There's a deadline. Let's do all the work for it. Creatives can't think like that. That actually is where resistance lies. And that's what makes it really difficult when you are trying to juggle all these creative ideas and then feeling trapped by something. This happens all the time, and it happens when you step into becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a creative business owner, because you're going to experience this yourself. Even some of the deadlines that you set for yourself can feel like they're really locking you in, and you can fight against them and resist against them. So here are some of the things that I discussed and suggested with this particular client, and that I would suggest and discuss with any of my clients that were having this conversation with me. And the first question I asked was, who told you that you need to have all the work done in advance for this particular thing and done in a certain way? And the answer came it was a really difficult question to answer, because no one had really told them this. It's being taught everywhere in business schools and through the education system that you've got a deadline, you've got to do this work, you've got to revise for it, you've got to do all the work. And when this person answered, I was like, right, this reminds me of my daughter who was, doing A-levels and struggled to do the revision that everybody else was doing to the revision schedule set by the school, this linear schedule. She really, really struggled with it. She fought it. She resisted it. She couldn't do it. And she winged it and did all the work at the last minute. And she still passed. And this is what a lot of us creatives do. We leave it till the last minute, do the work, show up, and it actually goes quite well. And this particular client has said to me, I've done this with something else, left it till last, did the work in advance, didn't like it, and the 3 hours before the presentation, rewrote it, and it went really well. Sometimes backed into a corner, that's when we do our best work. So what happens is, as a creative, you convince yourself that it's okay, because if you leave it to the last minute, you're going to do some good work and it'll all be fine. And that isn't, because that in itself is quite stressful. So here is what answering that question was really difficult for this particular person, because they didn't know where they'd heard that they should do it in this particular way. And the work that this person had to do was to teach something for one session per week for 8 weeks. And in their mind is, I have to have all 8 lessons prepared, because that's what teachers do, and that's what college tutors do, and that's what everybody else I know does in the business that I work in. And I said, my response was, why do you have to have all 8 lessons written and prepared? Can you not just do the first 3 and then stay a week ahead of yourself? Where would be the harm in that? Because what that would do would give you the advantage of learning from your first lesson about your audience and where their thought patterns were going and how they were responding. And it would give you the ability to adapt your lessons a week at a time. And their response was, oh my goodness, I had never even thought of that. So we're so molded into a society through the education system, through schools, through colleges, through universities, of you've got to do things a certain way. And we go into business and there's lots of people teaching you, you've got to set goals in a certain way, you've got to plan in a certain way, you've got to do this in a certain way. We're so molded into that belief system that we struggle to think outside of it and to do something slightly different. And what I always say is, what works for you? Not leaving it to the last minute, because that isn't professional. But actually, who said you have to do everything up front? Do you know, when I launched my Creative Mastermind, my 12-month program in 2019, I literally had the first 3 months of a 12-month program written. And I launched it with 9 months still to write. And all I did was stay 1 month ahead of the first clients that signed. So they never knew, because I was always a month ahead of them. And by the time they got to 9 months, the program was written, and I'd been able to adapt the teachings along the way to these people, to what I was learning from them. And I then went back and rewrote some of the first few modules of that course. It gave me some really good creative knowledge. Now, was that a complete disaster for my business? No. Did it work? Yes. Was it professional? Yeah. Nobody knew. Nobody knew except me. And I was comfortable with the workload of being able to stay 1 month ahead. And I'd managed to sell it without actually completing the program. So, my answer really to this, how do you juggle your creativity and the constraints of work, is you find what works for you. Now, I am not advocating wait till the last minute, till you're backed in a corner to a deadline and you'll produce your best work. Although sometimes, here's something, sometimes that might work for you. And sometimes that might be the best thing to do in any particular circumstance. And who says that that's wrong? Do you know who says that that's wrong? The schools, the colleges, the universities, the people that are teaching this linear thought process that's out there. This is not exactly winging it. This is finding a method that does not make you feel like you are trapped. Because trapping a creative is like trapping a wild lion. We can't be trapped and taken away from the thing that we love the most, the thing that brings us the most joy, the thing that allows us to show our creative genius by deadlines and time constraints. We have to build businesses that we love and that we can work in our way. But the whole world is constantly shouting at us as creatives that you must do it this way, you must do it this way. And I am not. I am standing on my soapbox saying, find your way of managing how you feel and the balance between being a grown-up and doing what you need to do in your business, because things need to be done in your business. You do need a strategy. You need a marketing strategy. Yeah, you need a business strategy. You need a vision. You need to know where you're going. You need goals. You need to plan. You can't not do those things in business, because if you fail to do those things, you will fail. But you find your way of doing those things. You don't have to follow the Excel spreadsheet gang. You don't have to follow the people that have all these charts and things. You know me, I've got a 4-foot mind map. That might not work for you, it works for me. I found my way of planning, and I found my way of feeling free enough to meet deadlines and to run a business. And what I advocate and encourage all the time is you finding the model that works for you, finding the method that works for you, and finding the tools that work for you. And it doesn't matter if the person next to you is doing it the proper way. Are you ready to stand up and be counted and say, I challenge the way that you are doing this, because that does not work for me? Because people will tell you, you need to do it this way. You need to follow this process. You need to follow this procedure. Do you know what? Us creatives, since the start of time, since cavemen days, since we were drawing on walls, okay? Us creatives have been challenging the status quo. That's part of our job. We've been thinking outside the box. We've been coming up with new ideas. Imagine if creatives hadn't done that. I wouldn't be speaking to you from my MacBook right now with a ring light and a microphone and an iPhone, or even some Reese's. None of that would have been thought of if it hadn't been for the creatives that have challenged the status quo and challenged the way we do things. So have the confidence to find something that feels right for you and that works for you. Obviously, if you're doing something and it's not working, you've got to try something different. Yeah, if you're doing the same thing and you're getting the same result and that result is not good, you have to do something different. And that's where you go and learn from other people and look at what they're doing and cherry pick. Go and cherry pick the things that you like and the things that you don't like. I very regularly show up and share what I do. And I don't do that to tell you that you should do it. I do it to show you an option. And what other people are doing, I want you to remember this, is an option. It's an option that you can say yes or no to. It's an option that you can try, and if you don't like it, you can put it in the bin. It does not mean that you have to do it. So that's how you juggle your creativity and the constraints of work. You accept that you have to do things in order to make money, but you find what feels right for you, the path of least resistance for you to get there. And I'm going to prove that to you over the next couple of months, because I'm going to be doing something very soon that all of the linear thinkers out there tell you you should never, ever do. And I'm going to do it anyway. And I like breaking the rules. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't. I always meet my deadlines, but I meet them with what is necessary for to be met on that day. Okay, if there's any way that I can only deliver a part of it and that's enough, sometimes that's what I do. So you're probably sitting there thinking, where does this fit in with me? How does this fit in with me? It's a mindset thing. So this is about mindset. Your mindset has been molded and shaped by other people, by other people's opinions, by other people's procedures, by other people's systems. And what I'm encouraging you to do through Creative Genius HQ is to challenge those things, to find what really does work for you, and to find the thing that makes you feel comfortable, productive, and motivated, inspired in your business, inspired by your goals and to keep going, and inspired to create a strategy in your business that works around the thing that you love doing the most. This is how I work with my ladies that come into the Creative Mastermind. I don't force them into business models that are already made and that are already out there. We find business models that suit them, because then they're going to love it instead of have some resistance to it. So if you have felt like this ever, it's resistance. It's not a fact. You don't have to stay that way. It's just resistance to something that's not making you feel comfortable. So find the thing that makes you feel comfortable. Anyway, I hope that helps and made you think. It just made me think last week when I did this one-to-one session. It made me think, and I thought, you know what, I need to go and talk about this because I'm sure other people are feeling this. So enjoy the rest of your evening. I will be back next Tuesday, and I think next Tuesday night, no, I'm doing an interview. I'm not going to be here next Tuesday night. I am going to be here Tuesday at 11 a.m. next week because I'm interviewing Nixie Foster, because she has something amazing and big to share with the world, because she's stepped into her superpower as a creative and she's doing something completely astonishing. And if you don't know who Nixie Foster is, go and check her out. But she will be here with me at 11 a.m. next Tuesday instead of my normal 7 p.m. live. So I will see you then. Let me know what works for you. Let me know if there are instances where you felt like this, and communicate with me and let me talk to you about these sorts of things, because I don't want creatives out there feeling this way. I want you to feel powerful, full of power, and able to do everything. I will see you next week, 11 a.m. Have a wonderful week. I'm off to eat this. See you later.